Okay, so the 24th of March, and I had these dreams, well, basically two dreams, but I had this one dream which I kind of just remembered, where I put some hot water in a glass and of course it exploded. But it was kind of strange. I don't know why I put this hot water in the glass for a start. I think I made a drink, like a hot drink, and put the drink in the glass or something like that. And yeah, I realised that I probably shouldn't have done. And I was thinking, well, it might be okay. I mean, it's only once in a while that the glass, smashes under these circumstances, and then it just exploded, and in such a way that I don't think glass would ordinarily explode under these circumstances. I mean, it really could have been used like a glass bomb. And I hid behind my door, and it kind of smashed twice. I heard this kind of glassy explosion, sort of glass bang. Almost like a pop, loud pop, and then sort of the falling of broken glass, the chinkling of that. Then it happened again, and all of a sudden the floor, was covered in small pieces of glass, and of course there was still hot liquid in the glass. I was like, well, how long can I, do I stay here? For my own safety. I was using my door as a barricade for this flying glass. And I don't know, somehow I knew that glasses only tend to explode twice, and it was fine. And at first the glass didn't seem to look that broken, and I thought, it was cracked up and completely useless. But it didn't seem like any piece of glass had flown off it, and I thought, well, where's all this broken glass come from then? I looked, and of course it had, it was clearly smashed. It wasn't, the glass was still there, but the whole top part of it was kind of smashed in, as it were. The glass in question was one that I had two. I have one now, and have done for a while. It's black and it's got stars. Maybe I'll photograph it or film it or something. It's kind of black though, and has like stars where where they haven't painted it black, so they're sort of transparent, and they're also sort of embroidered into the glass, so they're sort of tactile stars. And it came from a shop called Moonflower, which is sort of a new agey type shop. It's been around for a while around here. Well, I always thought it was a new agey type shop. It's a strange shop. It sells all kinds of wooden kids, old-fashioned, mostly wooden kids' toys. They also sell things like whoopee cushions, though, I think. And that's all upstairs now, and they sell things like scented candles, and I think I got a wand from there once, and I got a smudge stick from there once, so sort of like a local version of ISIS, I guess. A little bit more upmarket, possibly. So yeah, that was just something that I remembered. I guess the first dream was about a phone that took, it had an answer machine that took cassettes. Like, I dreamt that I had a phone that basically didn't work. It was a cordless phone, and it was broken in such a way that when when the phone was in the cradle, it was fine, but as soon as you picked it up, it was like the rechargeable batteries just dissipated within instantly. It was weird, and you put it back down again, and it would charge as if the batteries were brand new and completely empty. It wouldn't charge up for a few minutes, and then it would start charging and take a little while to charge fully. So that phone was completely useless. And I had that in real life, by the way, that phone, and I replaced it with another phone, the same make actually, and this one is a lot better. I like the phone, except that they've designed it in such a way. I think it's a sort of a lame attempt of pretending that they care anything about saving the planet. And where regular phones like that, or older phones like that, you'd put them on the cradle, and once they were charged up, it would kind of go into trickle mode, so they'd always be charged up. This one kind of acts more like a mobile phone, or more like I would use a mobile phone, particularly the older ones, where you charge it up and then let it go down, and charge it up and let it go down to sort of save the battery. But it kind of forces you to do this. It just doesn't, even if it says it is charging, it just won't charge unless the battery is dead, and it's deeply irritating. When you want to make a phone call and the battery is nearly dead. I mean, yesterday I clicked on it, the minute I use that as my calendar, that and the DS, but at the moment I've got a game going, on that, so when I open it up, the game will still be going on. And as soon as I pressed the button, so as it would show me the date, it showed me it for like a nanosecond and then went dead, and there's nothing I could do except change the bloody batteries. That's, if I really needed to make a phone call, that instant, then the only way I could do it is by having some non-rechargeable batteries. And so they're really forcing you to use like non-rechargeable batteries in a way. It's just moronic. And why? They'll say because it takes so much power. If everyone it's like the video clock. I remember this being an issue in the days of VHS. All video, or most VHS players have a clock which is constantly on. And it's so that you can, set the timer to record and all that sort of thing, but the clock is constantly on. And, in the end, they sort of designed them so that the clock dims when it's in standby mode. and they said that, that this saves a huge amount of power, because the amount of the amount of households that had these video recorders, and by dimming the display to about half, it consumes about half the amount of electric that you would do if you didn't, the display didn't dim down slightly. And the amount of power that saves is astronomical when you when you consider every house on the grid that has a video recorder. And I guess it's the same thing here for every household that has a cordless phone of this nature. But it's like, really, it makes it sort of unworkable, impractical. And like I said, the only way to sort of get around it, around this issue, other than having another phone, and I do have a like a corded phone, like a very simple corded phone which I use in emergencies. But what am I going to have to do? Set the thing up. I've got broadband internet as well, so I've got a splitter for that. Am I going to have to somehow, wire it up so I've got two phones and the same thing, So I've got a corded phone, that doesn't want charging, so I can still make phone calls if I really need to. At the moments when the battery in that phone is, even mobiles, you can charge them up when they're halfway down. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing that, as far as I know. It's been a while since I bought a new mobile phone, but anyway, I've prattled on about that enough. In the dream, I also had a old phone, and I kind of had one of these in a friend very kindly, when I complained about a phone that I had, not the one I just prattled on about, but the phone beforehand, before it, I think it was a phone beforehand, before it broke. I don't remember, or it might have been the phone I had before that, which was just extraordinarily low quality, and cost me a pretty penny, actually. She very kindly gave me this really old-fashioned corded phone, and that was the main problem I had with it. And it had an answer phone which was cassette based. It took these little micro cassettes. I didn't want to use it, for the reason that I didn't particularly like it, but also she had her father's voice on the cassette, and I was like, well, keep the cassette. Really, I'm grateful for the phone, but keep the tape, and because that's precious, and I'll get my own tape. They're not hard to find. I only need one. I'll just seek out my own tape, and I'll have the answer machine. It'll be cool, and then I'll start using the phone. But she wouldn't have any of it. It's like, oh no, we called over the voice of my father. And her father's obviously deceased, and this is like the only recording she has of it. Keep the tape. Don't invite me to record over the anyway. In the end, she saw that I wasn't using it and asked for it back, so she'd give it to another friend who would use it, which was more than fair enough. So I gave it back, and I should have kept the tape with him and said, "Oh, I lost the tape," and then given that to her later. But anyway, yeah, in the dream I had a very similar phone to that, very similar styled phone, but he took like the regular type of cassettes. I think it took two. I think it was one of those systems where you had one cassette for the outgoing message and one for the recording of the message. And again, I hadn't used this phone because I didn't know where to get the appropriate cassettes, especially for the outgoing message. I know you used to be able to get these little loop tapes. They lasted about 20 seconds. And they went round in a loop. I remember seeing them, in the days where these cassette-based answer phones were common. And I wouldn't know where to get one of those tapes now for the outgoing message, and that's why I never used it. I don't think you could use a regular cassette. You could use a regular cassette for the recording. You just get a C90, any sort of cassette for the recording. And that was fine, but yeah, I managed to find one of these tapes. And yeah, I think I got one that was 20 seconds. And he couldn't have that wasn't a default message with these phones at all. You had to make your own message and put it on this tape for it to work. So you kind of needed one of these tapes, and I got one in a packet. And the packet actually came with 4, I think, regular tapes. The one that I bought. And there was some issue where if you had like a 20-second outgoing message tape, your message had to be 20 seconds. And my initial recording actually, cited this. It was, I said, well, this is a bit daft because you know that you have to leave a message now, and now I'm just wasting your phone bill on, just because I can't, just because this stupid machine has to play the whole outgoing message tape before it will start recording your message. And in the message tape, the message thing, the tape that recorded the message, I put one of the, I think it was like a C90 cassette, just a regular cassette in that section. And then I think it was my granddad who called up, and it was like the last message he ever sent or something like that. It was something that I really wanted to keep, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to keep this. I can't record over this. And so I fast forwarded to the end of the cassette and made to turn it over, but there was something prohibiting me from doing that. I mean, if you've ever used one of these cassettes, I mean, they're completely symmetrical. Most of the time, there's no reason why you can't, load the tape up. There's no reason why you can't load the tape up on either side. But there was here, it just wouldn't go into the thing, and it was like trying to put like a Mega Drive cartridge in, the wrong way round, or something of that nature. There's something about the tape where this particular machine didn't want you using, side 2 of the cassette because it presumably used the whole rip for the tape for some reason. It used the part of the tape that you wouldn't normally use for something else, like the code to tell it when a new message had started or something of that nature. I don't know, but I thought, okay, and I made to use another tape, but I thought, well, I haven't used this tape hardly at all, and all it contains is this message. But the thing came with, I hope it doesn't happen, all the time, because I'll be spending a fortune on bloody tapes. But, I used another tape, and that was that dream. The following dream was really strange. I was at a college or university, and this was like a university for geniuses or something like that. And some weird things happened. Like, I had like an egg, like a hard-boiled egg, and I think it was sliced with one of these egg slicers. I say it was like sliced egg, and and this woman was sort of explaining the rules of the college. But it's really hard to explain. It's like the yolk of the egg was capable of recording data in the form of sound, like the cassettes from the previous dream. But the white wasn't, and you had to sort of go through the white of the egg before you got to the yolk, and then once you got to the yolk, then you started then you started obtaining knowledge, or the yolk, maybe it couldn't record knowledge as such, but it contained knowledge that you could extract, but the white of the egg didn't. And of course, when you slice an egg, the end of the egg, the ends, of the egg won't contain any yolk. So, as he was talking to me, I was eating this egg, from one end to the, I think from the pointy end to the other end, and once I got to the yolks, he started sort of, I can't remember what she said, but she was much more animated when I was eating the part of the egg that actually contained yolk. And she also said something about, if you're in an emergency, don't not dial 999 just because you're eating the end of an egg that doesn't have any yolk, or something like that. That makes no sense, but it was something of that nature. And then I was in a room, oh God, yeah. Okay, I said something. I think at this point, my notes are a little bit all over the place. It's such a weird dream. Didn't really have, there was a narrative, but it made no fucking sense. I said something sarcastic about her thing about the yolk, the stupid thing. I can't remember what I said, unfortunately, for the life of me. I can't remember what I said. But it was some sort of sarcastic comment, in the form of a question. And she responded with, "That's beautiful," and, walked out. Sort of walked away, and I was like, ugh. I was in sort of a hallway. At the end of this hallway was my room, and I guess I was sharing this room or my suite, like a, my home basically for this, while I was at this uni or education bloody thing, institution. I walk into this room, and there's a guy who starts licking. I had fur all of a sudden. I don't know if I was wearing fur or if I had fur. It was sort of a rough brown fur, and actually some of it was longer than the rest of it. And he started licking my fur just completely. I think there was some kind of lead up towards it. I think I said hi or something like that, and he starts licking my fur. I was like, really cut it out, and I managed to shake him off in the end. I think he started sort of running around like a dog or something like that. And I called him, oh yeah, a hackable freak. That's what I called him. I went, hackable freak. And I think by that I meant he was able to hack computers. That was his speciality. Was computers, and one of the things you could do was sort of hack into any computer or any system, or whatever. So, once I got rid of him, I was like, the hackable thing. He might have bitten my leg. I didn't mind him licking my fur, but then he did something like bit my leg or something. I really don't remember. And then the last part of the dream was, I had like some. It looked a bit like a Scotch egg. It was something that kind of resembled an egg, but it was completely round. And I was listening to an old-fashioned radio, and a radio show, which had something to do with the college, something to do with the course I was on. It was like a sort of a radio lecture or something like this. Something that I had to listen to. And, I had this egg type thing sliced, as before. And I was kind of eating it, and as before, when I got to the yolk slices, slices that contained yolk, that was the most interesting part of the radio broadcast. And then it went, and then the yolk kind of ran out. And the way this egg thing was, the yolk wasn't in the middle. It had somehow kind of moved to sort of near one end. So now I presumably had a lot of white to go through, which I thought was fair enough. And then there was another climax, and I found there was another yolk. It was a sort of a double yolked thing. And I thought, well, that's... And I think that's when the rules changed. I think before that time, the yolk just contained knowledge, like, the knowledge from the chicken that laid it, or some kind of weird shit like this. But I think this is when the rule changed, and now you could sort of record your knowledge into the yolk, and sort of have that as a sort of a memory, more kind of like a USB memory stick, I guess, or a jump drive, you know, than a cassette or anything like that. But yeah, you know, you still recorded things on the yolk of this egg, and I think all of this recording jazz. I mean, I don't know about the exploding glass. I made a couple of videos yesterday. Well, I didn't make a couple of videos. I made a video yesterday, and it was on the same DVD as one that I made about a week ago when my father came down. And they were both very similar. One was shot at Ruskin Mill, and it was just me, you know, walking down. I'll tell you something else about them. They're both videos that I've made on the Sky Foco channel before, but you know, I was trying out a completely different style of video which didn't work. You know, it worked for the Sky Foco channel because, you know, I used sort of copyrighted music, but I didn't want to use copyrighted music because, you know, I wanted this channel to at least have a chance of being a partnership channel. You know, so I used sort of much lamer music, and it just didn't work. You know, they worked for me, but you know, I can see why. Well, I don't really have an audience for those videos. Certainly, I mean, there's no substance to them really. And you know, I did make a video of me walking from one end of, you know, from the Ruskin Mill car park to Ruskin Mill, which is like a blinking walkaway, I'm telling you. They want you to sort of park quite a long way from the college because of the way it's set out. You know, it's got this really small car park, you know, right by the college. And of course the college has the coffee shop, which is what we went for. And it was just me, you know, with my little Instamatic camera, which I'm looking at now, just pointing it in front of me and walking down the thing. And this was to sort of Bach music or Brahms music. And yeah, the video that I shot with my father was that, but I was kind of talking, but I was talking utter not, you know, I didn't have anything to really talk about, and I couldn't really talk about anything anyway because I was with my dad, and he would have just kind of interrupted me. So, you know, I talked about, oh, this is where an episode of Rosie and Jim was filmed, and talked about that, and this bridge is where I once built a bridge, you know, a different bridge with somebody else, but they've obviously taken that up and replaced it with frankly, a much nicer bridge. You know, ours was just a bunch of stone. I kind of liked it, but you know, this bridge was a lot more permanent. You know, it was all things like that, and then I just started talking utter nonsense, you know, if at all. It was just sort of life stuff. I think my dad asked me a question about something, and I answered that. I don't know. Anyway, the video that I shot yesterday was in like a wooded area, which I find particularly sacred. You know, I really kind of hold this woods as special. And all I wanted to do was go in, nag some wild, you know, there's tons of wild garlic around this area, like tons of it just grows all over the place, and it's really cool. I might make myself something with it actually. In a second, make myself some breakfast with this wild garlic. because it's really cool. And I wanted to, because I said something on Facebook about this wild garlic, and my brother responded with, "Oh my God, you're so lucky." So I wanted to make, a 20-second video just showing how much wild garlic, because it really is like, sometimes almost the whole floor is just covered in wild garlic leaves, just for about 2 weeks or so, maybe a month if you're lucky, and then it just disappears until the following year. And I really like wild garlic. So that's kind of cool. But it wound up being like, again, there's a video that I uploaded I think it's called In the Dragon's Room, on the Skyfoco channel, and I actually mentioned it. And again, what happened was, since I'd been there last, somebody had put up a load of barriers and shit, which we had to sort of get through. I guess they didn't want us walking down a particular path or something. I don't know what the game is, but I was with someone and they couldn't climb over the gate, although I'm sure I could. Or they didn't have the right shoes on, anyway. Because I didn't warn them that this is something that I wanted to do, and so we had to go somewhere. We luckily found a gate which I managed to open, and we could get through that way. So basically, what I ended up making a video of was the walk which the same walk that I'd filmed on this previous video, but again, this time I was kind of talking, that previous video, has some sound pool music. Whereas, I was talking, but again, I was just talking nonsense. I didn't have anything really to talk about. I wasn't expecting to sort of take this walk at all. And I did talk about this Wicker Man thing, which is something that I did want to talk about, but didn't really go into too much detail. I was just talking about the words, and I pointed the camera at this river and I said, "There you go, that's the first river." There's nothing really that I talked about, what I was going to do with the wild garlic once I picked it as well, and but nothing highly philosophical. There was also an issue, where I saw this really nice camera in a store and I can't afford it, and it's like a second-hand store, and this camera is far superior to the camera that I use, and it was actually quite frustrating to me for a little while, because it's cheap for what it is. It's really good, a really good price they're asking for what it is, but it's still too high for me to be able to afford, at least at this point. So that might have something to do with it. And I think the sexuality, the yoke, sort of represents some sexual issues, that I have right now. The yoke being the room, or some kind of sexual organ, or sort of eating the yolk is getting inside the person that, you know, or getting inside someone, basically. It kind of represents their inner knowledge and my inner knowledge, and at the same time, you know, the knowledge that I'm able to sort of offer, you know, in these videos. You know, there's been all kinds of videos that I've been wanting to make, but you know, and I kind of half made some of them, but I've had so many constraints that haven't been able to. And like these two videos that I have on my hard drive, and I think they're still on the disc. You know, I watched the actual DVD last night, and yeah, for a start, I'm a little bit rusty, and secondly, you know, I just made them completely by chance, and consequently, you know, rather than having the sort of videos that I'd like to make, you know, I've got these kind of random videos where I'm talking about Rosie and Jim, and I know the Rick and Man, I guess, but you know, just completely random stuff. And yeah, and of course, you know, the yolk was in the egg, and you know, and then there's the issue of the guy licking my fur, and oh god, this, that, and the other. I mean, I really don't want to go into too much detail. With that, but yeah, there was all kinds of. I mean, the box was. You know, I encountered all kinds of dogs. Like everybody has a dog in box, and I really like, you know, fussing over dogs. You know, I can't help myself. I'll always fuss over a dog if I see one, and it's appropriate. And there was one dog like in somebody's garden. He was just relaxing, and like the way this garden was, you know, you had a like a big stone, dry stone wall, and then you had this sort of iron gates. So you know, I was looking over the wall at this dog and sort of talked to him, I guess, and then he was kind of hidden. And then as I walked past the gate, you know, he'd actually come. You know, he kind of made me jump, and I was like, "Oh, hi." I think he wanted to say hello, but I didn't. I just carried on. You know, my friend was with me, and she'd gone on a little bit, and so I walked on, and he kind of went back to his place. And then there was another dog in the pub, and there we went to, and a more slobby dog sort of outside the pub. So yeah, I guess it was about me having more contact with these dogs than I did with, you know, my friend who I was walking through the woods with. And you know, is that necessarily a bad thing? And you know, what are my desires? Do I desire the dogs more than I desire this friend of mine who I do desire, I will admit, or is there something else going on? Yeah, basically I think these are the issues that evolved, not evolved, that's not a word, evoked the egg yolk sort of metaphor, and the whole college kind of metaphor, and of course the tape, the tapes and all that would be the DVD disc, and the only thing I could think of for the glass is, when you went into the pub, I had a beer, she had a Coke, and they both came in glasses. Or actually, it might be something else. But I won't go into that now. It's sort of related to the sexuality issues. And again, like the sort of like the dog thing. I do have a thing about broken glass or breaking crockery sort of thing. That is kind of linked to sexuality, and I guess it's kind of working out the difference between, fussing over a dog, doing whatever with this broken crockery, or whatever, it's I don't know, but yeah, this video is way too long as normal, so yeah, that's that.